yield myself 5 minutes. You mentioned that the president's policies have lowered the debt by about $1 trillion. Let's be clear here. The president was in hiding for about 100 days. Chuck Schumer swore he'd never negotiate a debt ceiling. We had colleagues on this committee saying it's reckless, we should never do it, and they were sort of the sky is falling. And because Republicans said we cannot just have a clean debt ceiling where we don't consider the $34 trillion record debt for this country, the $20 trillion that'll be added, this unsustainable fiscal path. And so Republicans, and this is the truth, I can look you in the eyes and tell you, Republicans led to bring Democrats to the negotiating table, and we actually together reduced spending year over year. And over the 10-year window, about $1.5 trillion or something close to that. Now, I appreciate that the president and the administration worked with us, but had Republicans not pushed back, had we not led, ranking member, we wouldn't have that record. So I think the people need to understand that that's the kind of pushback and kind of political courage that Republicans and Democrats have to exercise if we're going to bring the debt down. I don't believe that the president is fiscally responsible, but not because he says he is or doesn't say he is in speeches. It's because the last 3 years we've seen $6+ trillion in new debt added to the national debt. And because his budget that we're talking about today puts us on a path of the highest sustained spending, taxes and debt in the history of the country. That's a fact too. There's nothing fiscally responsible about that. Leaving an average debt of $1.6 trillion a year is not fiscally responsible. That's a deferred tax on our children. We're going to bankrupt the country. Again, there's no perfect plan, and Republicans they're not a profile in courage on reducing spending like I think is the driver of our debt. But no, this is making things worse. This is gasoline on the fire that is consuming not only the money in the pocketbooks of our fellow Americans, but it's going to burn up any hope for a bright and prosperous future for our children. Now, you thought I had a question in here, didn't you? I'm going to have a question. My question is, if I asked you, and I don't want to trap you, I don't want to play gotcha, we had a FRA agreement, right, out of the debt ceiling, fiscal responsibility agreement. It was a spending cap deal. Well, I thought it was a pretty good deal, and I still think it's a good deal, but it's not nearly as good as I thought, and most members feel the same way. Because, and you're an expert, 8th degree black belt in appropriations jujitsu, we had a bunch of side deals that were off balance sheet spending. The American people have no clue, Director Young, about what is budget authority and what is outlays. What we do is we stuff the turkey of emergency spending, we stuff the turkey of other gimmicks like chimps and rescissions, and the American people never see. And then we go out and do press conferences and press releases that say, we got a top line of $1.59 trillion. We reduced spending. Does that bother you? Because I think if the American people deployed the same budget gimmicks, accounting fraud, they would go to prison, literally. I think it's criminal. And by the way, Republicans do it every bit as much as Democrats. Do you agree with that? Can you opine on that? Will you work with me to clean that up at a minimum? I mean, whether the spending is more or less or the same, can we all agree we can't hide the ball from the American people and that this is accounting fraud? I yield.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you won't be surprised to hear my response. I think you'd see two different press releases that came out of that budget deal. I think Democrats were very happy to point out that we were going to be able to maintain spending for child care and NIH and all the other things and produce what we call non-defense discretionary in a flat scenario. We were very honest about that. That was necessary to see 76% of Democrats in the House vote for that package. So
why didn't we put it in the budget authority? Why do we have to stick non-emergency items in emergency? Why do we have to put chimps and suggest that we're reducing spending when we're actually adding more to spending? It's fair enough for you to say, we committed to spending more. We think that's a good thing. But it's not the 159. This is money in addition to it. Shouldn't we at least just deal with the numbers that the American people can understand so they know what their government leaders are doing and what they're paying for their government? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you were arguing for more spending, we were arguing for less. There's no question about that. More bureaucracy, more government, less bureaucracy. It grew 40%. The government did, the people's government, since COVID. We thought we ought to right-size the bureaucracy. Fair enough to debate that. But I'm talking about just transparency. Can we work together on making that a more transparent transaction?
Mr. Chairman, what matters to me, what matters to the president is what we're able to invest in these programs that help working families across the country. Whether it's in what you call CHIMPs, which are changes in mandatory programs or emergency spending, what matters is how much goes to child care block grants, how much goes to Head Start. You know, Mr. Chairman, if there is interest in doing that straight in budget authority, we're with you. But, you know, we were negotiating in good faith with then Speaker McCarthy, who had his own outline of how he'd like to see the numbers come in. And we, as you point out, came to the table and worked out a deal. The bill you all see today and that you're going to vote on fiscal year 24 complies with that deal, but I appreciate the complaints about it. But it is a show of bipartisanship that both parties were able to come together. We're 6 months late. And we certainly hope, and you'll hear from the president, that that bill is passed as soon as possible to prevent a avoidable shutdown. So you have my commitment to work if the other side wants this all in budget authority or CHIMPs. Doesn't matter to us. What matters is the investments we're able to make for the American people.
I will reserve my comments so that my ranking member and other colleagues can ask their questions. So